Alright, so we're going to talk about the end of World War I now, and just maybe some interesting little hodgepodge things too, as we go in there. The first thing we have is the Battle of Bayeux Wood. This is a battle in 1918, and the whole reason I have it here is the Germans at one point said that the U.S. Marines fought like devils, devil dogs, etc. And so this is kind of a beginning of, they're going to use this in many, many years, of the lore of the Marine Corps, how they have camaraderie, how they fought together, and so that's an important thing. Now, a really cool thing, and maybe you'll notice a scarf up in my room, and there's also a little video in there. In 1914, as the war is actually getting started, there actually was a Christmas truce. Somebody had a calendar, figured out it was Christmas, and the two sides, the English and the Germans, came out and exchanged gifts. And the video will show that what it is. Of course, the Germans had the trees, the English had like a box with some little stationary things like that. They even played a soccer match. So, I mean, the whole purpose here is to show that these guys are simply doing what they're being told, but maybe their whole heart went in this, and that's just an interesting story. It's an inspiring story about people, nonetheless. Now, on November 11th, 1911, at 11 a.m., right? I mean, all this stuff, right, has to be done. They sign an armistice. Now, an armistice basically means a ceasefire. Put down your arms. It is not a treaty. It will not end a war. For example, Korea is still an armistice that we've had since 1953. They could pick up and start fighting anytime. They do have a terms, and then in this little window they have, we're going to go and we're going to try to sign a treaty. And remember, Wilson's going to bring us 14 points. The French bring their idea, and we're going to see who wins here. Now, a really interesting thing that came out of November 11th, later on, and it's mainly World War II era, different things, we decide to commemorate our fallen heroes, our ones who have served, and they call it Veterans Day, and they picked November 11th. Why? I mean, that was the day that the Great War was officially ended, and so that's why we went with that. Now, as we go to this treaty conference, Wilson is going to take his baby, his peace offering, right? The League of Nations. Let's figure out how we want to do this. And so he's going to bring his League of Nations. Once he sees that France will not sign the 14 points, he pushes the League of Nations very, very heavily. Now, some couple of questions that come up at here. Number one, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire is broken up. The Ottoman Empire is broken up, and we have the creation of many, many, many states. And so the mentality was, who's going to determine where they are? They're now independent, and it's called self-determination. Self-determination basically means they have the right to pick whatever type of government they want. And so that was a major factor going in for Poland and, oh gosh, so many other countries that were formed, Czechoslovakia. Now, however, when Hitler sees these new independent countries, these are the first one he goes and picks off because he knows they're not strong. And so that's something there. Now, the next thing they come to the table with is the idea of collective security. And collective security basically is strength in numbers, that if united, we will never fall. And so that's the mentality there. We want all these nations in the League of Nations, right, to have each other's back. And the problem, that's what the United States did not like, is the fact that we could be dragged into a war without having, things there. Now, ultimately in France, they met in Versailles. That's not Versailles, it's Versailles. They met at Versailles to sign the treaty. And they decided on the treaty. Now, the only thing, as I said, that they will include of Wilson's 14 points is the League of Nations. Everything else was very heavily dependent on the French. Now, the four main people, the big four as they're called, here they are, is Woodrow Wilson. He's right here. We have George Clemenceau from England, or France, sorry, France, he's from France. We have Mr. David Lloyd George from England, and we have Tony Orlando from Italy, which is ironic because wasn't Italy on the Central? Yeah, but they switched. And so that's something going forward. These four men here brought to the table the ideas that eventually will shape the Treaty of Versailles, with, of course, Clemenceau being very, very heavily in there. Now, the most controversial and highly debated part of this is Article 231 and 232, and it's in your packet. Here we have the big four pills, right? This is the peace terms. This is being fed to the German by the British Empire, France, America, Italy, Japan. And notice here, you've got to swallow it whether you like it or not. They had to take the peace terms because they had an unconditional surrender. And so with that term in mind, they really don't have a leg to stand on. And they are not actually even invited to the peace treaty. They're just sent it and they said, hey, sign it. If you don't sign it, we'll come back, we'll fight again. So what did this call for? Article 231 is I call it my bad, right? My bad. It's the war guilt clause. Germany had to accept it's their fault for World War I. Now, that's odd, isn't it? Because it's the Austrian-Hungarians and the Serbians. But remember, Austria-Hungary is split up, so they're no longer kind of feasible, so we have to take the next biggest one, and we have to put the blame somewhere, so we picked Germany. Article 232 said that they had to fit the bill. They had to pay for the entire thing, and the bill was astronomical. And the bill, here we go, let's see how you collect it. Right here it's at $55 billion, and it could be exaggerated. There's Germany underneath it, right? Let's see you collect it. They called it reparations. Reparations are simply payments for war damages. Going into the Great Depression and doing this, the United States tried to help Germany out, but there were some big problems there, okay? And so that is it for the treaty. We're now going to go back and look at the battle for ratification and why we never signed the treaty.